The little girl's voice cut through the winter wind like a knife. "Sir, my mom didn't come home last night." Night lay over a small mountain town. Snow whipped sideways under flickering streetlights. A row of motorcycles sat outside a 24-hour truck stop diner. Chrome rims crusted with ice, headlamps still ticking warm. Inside, the place hummed with low conversation and clinking silverware. A cluster of leather cuts filled one corner booth. The Redeemer's MC. Black vests, worn knuckles, tired eyes. I was there too. Name's Jax. Road captain for the Redeemers. I was halfway through a cup of bad coffee when I saw her. She couldn't have been more than 7. Tiny frame swallowed in a too big purple coat, sneakers soaked through, dark hair stuck to her cheeks with melting snow. She hesitated in the doorway, blinking at the lights, clutching a faded backpack like it was the last solid thing in her world. The waitress was about to shoo her back out into the storm. "Honey, we're not a shelter," when our president, Bishop, raised a hand and said, "Easy, Darla, let her come in." The girl scanned the room, scared, and then her eyes landed on our table, on the leather vests, on the skull wings of the Redeemer's MC. Most kids shrink away. This one walked toward us. Every boot step left a wet print on the linoleum. She stopped at the edge of our table, looked up at me, like she'd picked me out of all the monsters in the room, and her voice came out in a brittle whisper. "Sir, my mom didn't come home last night." The diner noise faded. Forks hung in midair. Even the jukebox seemed to turn itself down. I've heard a lot of things in my life. Begging, threats, last words choked out on dirty pavement. But nothing hits harder than a kid saying that. Darla brought her a mug of hot chocolate so full she had to use both hands. Bishop slid over, making room in the booth. The girl climbed in like she wasn't sure she was allowed to touch anything. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Bishop asked. "Mia," she said softly. "Mia Santos." I leaned forward. "Who's your mom, Mia?" "Rosa," she whispered. "Rosa Santos. She works nights at the cold place by the highway. The one with the big trucks." The cold place. I pictured the industrial park on the edge of town. Freezer warehouses, rattling loading docks. One of them with a sign over the gate. Northridge Cold Storage. I'd done security jobs there. I'd seen workers shuffle in before dawn, shoulders bent, badges hanging from tired necks. I'd seen them shuffle back out again, like ghosts. Mia told us the story in pieces between shivers. A small apartment 2 blocks from the diner. Her mom kissing her forehead before heading to the night shift. "If I'm late, you stay locked in, okay? But I'll always be back for breakfast." The clock creeping past dawn. Empty doorway. Cold bed. Silence. "I went to the plant," Mia said. "I walked along the road. I know the way. I waited by the fence, but nobody would talk to me. And then the men at the gate told me to go home. They said my mom probably found better things to do." Her lips quivered. "She wouldn't. She doesn't do bad things. She's just tired all the time." Bishop and I traded a look. We both knew what tired all the time means when you're poor and the bills don't care. I glance now at you, the one listening. If you're already holding your breath for this kid, do me a favor. Hit like, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and subscribe to Gentle Bikers. Stories like Mia's are real, even when the names are changed. And the more people hear them, the harder it is for the powerful to pretend they don't exist. Because this night didn't start as a rescue mission. Just a snowstorm, cold coffee, and a little girl who refused to stay quiet. 10 minutes later, Mia was wrapped in Bishop's spare hoodie, sleeves hanging past her hands. We stepped out into the parking lot. Snow drifted around the bikes like cigarette smoke. Engines rumbled to life one by one, headlights carving tunnels in the white. Mia stood between me and Bishop, eyes wide. "You ever ridden on a bike, kiddo?" I asked. She shook her head fast. "You're riding in the van," Bishop said. "Prospect'll drive you. Heat and seatbelts." Her shoulders dropped with relief. I swung onto my bike, the cold biting through my gloves. The storm was getting worse. Flakes thicker, the highway a smear of gray and white. But there was a kid who walked through this alone, and a mother who might be lying on a freezer floor somewhere between pallets of frozen food. That thought kept my throttle open, kept my eyes scanning the road for headlights and trouble. On the way, I called Lila. Lila's our unofficial club attorney, half public defender, half angel with tattoos and a temper. "Cold storage?" she said over the line. "Jax, that place has OSHA violation written all over it. Been hearing rumors for months." "Rosa Santos," I said. "Night shift. Didn't come home. Kids with us." Silence. Then a curse. "I'll meet you there," she said. "Don't touch anything dumb until I arrive." I hung up, shoved the phone back into my cut, and leaned into the curve as we crested the hill. The plant rose out of the snow like a shipwreck. Steel walls, sodium lights buzzing sickly yellow, plumes of white vapor escaping from vents along the roof. A row of semi-trucks sat half-buried along the dock. Security at the gate straightened when they saw us. 2 guys in navy jackets, badges on their belts. Hands went to radios. "Great," Bishop muttered. "Rent-a-cops with a god complex." We rolled to a stop. Engines died one by one, replaced by the hiss of snow on hot pipes. I pulled off my helmet and stepped forward. "Evening, gentlemen," I said. "We're looking for one of your workers, Rosa Santos, night shift. Didn't clock out last night." The taller guard snorted. "We don't give out employee info to bikers." "She's my mom," Mia blurted from behind me. The van door was open, and she was standing there, boots sinking into the snow. "She didn't come home." The guard shifted, uncomfortable. "Look, kid, if your mom didn't show, maybe she took off. Not our problem." Bishop's jaw flexed. "Say that again," he said quietly. The shorter guard stepped between us. "You want trouble? You can ride back to whatever bar you crawled out of. This is private property." There was a time in my life I'd have taken that as an invitation. Crossed that line with my fists first and the questions later. But I've buried enough ghosts. Now I fight a little different. The gate creaked as a new voice cut through. "What's going on out here?" A man strode up from the guard shack. Early 40s, neat beard, long wool coat over a suit that didn't love the snow. Name tag read, Logan Reyes, Operations Director. He took in the bikes, the patches, the little girl half hidden behind my leg. "Someone want to explain why there's a child in my loading yard in a blizzard?" "She came looking for her mom," I said. "Rosa Santos, night shift. Didn't make it home." Mia looked up at him, eyes shining. "Please," she said. "She always comes back. She promised." Logan's gaze flicked between us. Something, guilt maybe, or recognition, twitched behind his eyes. "Check the logs," he told the taller guard. "Now." The guard shrugged and trudged back toward the shack. "You run this place?" I asked. "My family's company owns it," Logan replied. "I manage it." He looked down at Mia again. "And I didn't know there was a child wandering in the snow this morning. That already makes today a bad day for me." The air inside the plant hit like a wall, chemical cold, metallic, and dry. The hum of compressors rattled my bones. Workers in padded vests moved between pallets, breath fogging, faces drawn tight with fatigue. Logan walked fast, keys jangling. Bishop, Lila, a couple of our guys, and I followed. Mia walked between me and Lila, gripping my hand so hard my fingers tingled. Lila scrolled through her phone. "Night shift log," she said. "Rosa Santos. Clock in, 7:02 p.m. No recorded clock out." "How does that happen?" I asked. Logan's jaw tightened. "System glitch. Or somebody forgot to—" He trailed off as we reached a heavy door marked Employee Lounge. The word lounge was a joke. These rooms are usually closer to broom closets. He fumbled the key card, swiped, and pushed the door open. The room was small, windowless. One dented table, a vending machine, 2 broken chairs, a row of lockers, and a woman lying on the floor between them. Her hair was matted with frost, her face gray, lips tinged blue, one hand still reaching toward a locker door that was half open, like she'd tried to stand and didn't make it. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Mia screamed, "Mama!" She bolted forward. I caught her around the waist just before she fell over her mother. Her small body shook like she was made of glass. I knelt, free hand pressing 2 fingers against Rosa's neck. There, faint, thready pulse. "She's alive!" I barked. "Call an ambulance, now!" Logan staggered back to the door, shouting down the hallway. Bishop was already on the phone with 911. Lila was snapping pictures. The room, the lockers, the broken wall heater blinking red error lights. The doctor voice in my head, the one you develop after too many nights in ER waiting rooms, started listing things off. Hypothermia, dehydration, blood sugar crash. But underneath that clinical hum was something raw, rage. I gently laid Mia's hand on her mother's, letting her feel show that Rosa was still here. "She's cold," Mia sobbed. "She's so cold." "I know, kiddo," I said, my throat tight. "But you found us, and we found her. You did good." Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, growing louder. Logan stood in the doorway, face drained of color. "How long has she been here?" he whispered. Lila rounded on him, eyes blazing. "You tell us. Your system logged her in, never logged her out, and nobody thought to check the lounge when she didn't show up? No supervisor? No buddy system? No safety sweep?" It's supposed to be done," he stammered. "End of every shift. They sign off. Supposed to be doesn't keep a single mom off the floor," she shot back. The paramedics shoved past us with a stretcher. They worked fast. Oxygen mask, warm blankets, glucose. Mia clung to my vest, watching with huge eyes. As they wheeled Rosa out, I caught one medic's arm. "How bad?" He glanced at Mia and lowered his voice. "Another hour or 2 and she doesn't get back up." Hours blurred at the hospital. Monitors beeped. The smell of antiseptic burned my nose. Mia fell asleep sitting upright in a chair, fingers locked around her mom's wrist. Rosa's color was better now. Fluids dripped into her arm. Warm air hummed from the vent above. Logan stood near the foot of the bed, hands in his coat pockets. His tie was loosened, eyes ringed with the kind of exhaustion you can't fix with coffee. "She took a double last night," he said quietly. "We cut hours last month. She kept volunteering to cover." "Because she needed the money," I said. He nodded once. "Because she needed the money." I should have hated this guy. He was the face of the company that nearly worked this woman to death. But when he looked at Mia, sleeping with her cheek on the blanket, there was something in his eyes I recognized. A man who just realized the system he runs is built on the bodies of people who never get a press release when they collapse. Lila stepped in with a folder. "I talked to some of your employees," she said. "Off the record?" She slapped a stack of handwritten notes onto the side table. "Unpaid overtime. 16-hour shifts strongly encouraged. Supervisors threatening to cut hours if they take bathroom breaks. No working heater in the lounge for 3 weeks." Logan picked up the papers, fingers trembling as he skimmed them. "How many knew?" I asked. "Everybody on the floor," Lila said, "and nobody above it, because nobody asked." Logan exhaled, a rough sound. "My father built this company," he muttered. "Always said we were a family. Guess some of us eat at the big table and some of us sleep on the kitchen floor." He pulled out his phone. His hands hovered over the screen. Then he looked at me. "You and your club," he said carefully. "You're about to make this very loud, aren't you?" I shrugged. "A man collapses in a bar fight. That's one thing. A woman collapses in a freezer so your trucks ship on time. That's another. People should know which hill someone almost died on." A corner of his mouth twitched in something like a grim smile. "Good," he said, "because I'm done being the man who didn't ask." The next week, Northridge Cold Storage looked very different. In a boardroom lit far too bright, executives stared as Logan slammed down Lila's folder. Phone cameras tilted up as he said, "We create the conditions for this, so we're going to be the ones to fix it." Lila sat in the corner, arms crossed, recording everything. Soon, memos went out. Max shift length, 10 hours. Mandatory heat checks in all employee areas. Paid sick leave for all night shift workers. A childcare stipend pilot program for single parents. End-of-shift safety sweeps with manager sign-off required. Workers in break rooms read the notices once, twice. Some laughed in disbelief. Some wiped their eyes when no one was looking. Logan called us in too. In the loading bay, he stood on an old pallet holding a squealing mic. "We brought some people with us," he said, gesturing to our cuts. "You might recognize them from the parking lot." A few workers shifted nervously when they saw the Redeemer's MC logo. "These guys have a reputation in this town," Logan continued. "Some of it earned, some of it exaggerated." The room chuckled, tension breaking. But last week, when one of our own was lying on that floor alone, it wasn't our security team who brought her daughter in out of the snow. It wasn't management who went searching. It was them. He nodded to me. "Jax, you want to say something?" Public speaking isn't really in my former delinquent-turned-biker skill set. But Mia was standing next to Rosa in the crowd, and both of them were looking at me like I was supposed to do something with this second chance I keep getting. I cleared my throat and took the mic. "Look," I said, "we're not saints. We ride loud, we screw up, we learn the hard way." A ripple of laughter ran through the crowd. "But there are lines. Lines you don't cross. Leaving mothers on cold floors because the schedule's tight? That's one of those lines." I looked straight into one of the cameras some worker was holding up. "If you're watching this later on your phone, maybe on break at some job that treats you like a spare part, just know there are people out here who think you matter. And if no one's ever told you that, you're hearing it now. And if you believe that too, hit like and share this video. Get this story in front of someone who's forgotten that human beings keep the lights on. And if this is your first ride with us, subscribe to Gentle Bikers so the algorithm has one less excuse to ignore stories like Rosa's." Applause rolled through the loading bay, awkward at first, then stronger. Rosa wiped at her eyes, cheeks pink with embarrassment and something softer. Pride, maybe. Mia clapped like she was trying to start a storm all by herself. A few weeks later, the storm was gone. The town wore a crust of old snow, gray at the edges, sparkling under a thin winter sun. Inside Redemption Garage, the Redeemer's shop, clubhouse, and unofficial community center, the air smelled like oil and coffee and cinnamon rolls. Kids' drawings covered one wall, taped between framed photos of charity rides and memorial patches. Mia's latest masterpiece was right in the center. It was a crayon drawing of 3 figures holding hands. A little girl in a purple coat, a woman with long dark hair and a lunchbox, and a biker with a big round head and a very exaggerated mustache. Underneath, in blocky letters, she'd written, "Thank you, Redeemers." I stood there staring at it while I wiped grease off my hands. "Looks nothing like you," Bishop said, walking up with 2 mugs of coffee. "Kid gave me hair," I said. "I'll take it." The front doorbell jingled. Rosa stepped in, trading her old stained work boots for cleaner ones just inside the mat. She still walked like she was listening for bad news, but there was more color in her cheeks now. "How's the new job?" I asked. She smiled, small but real. "Warmer," she said. "Less falling down on cold floors." Northridge had moved her off the line and into a safety liaison role, part translator, part employee advocate. She spent her shifts making sure what happened to her or didn't happen again. "And Mia?" "Doing her homework," she said. "In your office. She says the garage has better vibes than our apartment." Bishop snorted. First kid to call this place vibes. In the back office, Mia was sprawled in my chair, tongue poking out between her teeth as she crashed through math problems. A Redeemer's hoodie hung off the backrest like a flag. "Hey, trouble," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "You're supposed to be doing that, not doodling on it." She held up the paper. On the margins of the worksheet, she'd drawn a motorcycle with a little stick figure girl on the back. The rider had Jax scribbled across his vest. "It helps me think," she said. "Is it okay?" I used to think redemption was a thing you earned by doing big gestures, saving lives, taking bullets. Now I'm starting to think it looks more like this. A kid doing math in your office because she feels safe there. A mother going to work knowing someone will actually check the break room before locking up. A company man deciding that being decent is worth more than pleasing a spreadsheet. That evening, as the sun dipped and threw long shadows across the lot, a handful of night shift workers swung by the garage on their way to the plant, picking up thermoses of coffee and thick socks from a bin marked, "Redeemer's Warm Ride. Take what you need." Rosa helped hand things out, chatting quietly in English and Spanish. Logan showed up too, no suit this time, just a parka and a toolbox. He helped install a rack by the door for free loaner snow boots. "Didn't think we'd be doing joint projects," he muttered to me under his breath. "Welcome to the weird side of town," I said. He glanced at the Gentle Biker's sticker on the door, then at the camera Bishop had left set up on a tripod for our channel. "You really think people care about this stuff?" he asked. I looked past him, out at the workers pulling on borrowed gloves, at Mia laughing as she helped a guy pick out a beanie. "Yeah," I said. "I think they do. And if you've listened all the way to this point, I know you do too. So here's my question for you. What would you have done if a little girl walked into your life and said, 'Sir, my mom didn't come home last night'? Would you have sent her back out into the snow? Or would you have listened? If this story hit you in the chest even a little, do 3 things for me. Comment where you're listening from. I read those city by city, country by country. Hit like and share this with someone who's working too hard for too little. Let them know they're not invisible. And subscribe to Gentle Bikers so you don't miss the next ride. Around here, We tell stories where the monsters on the outside sometimes turn out to be the guardians on the inside. Mia locked the garage door from the inside, tiny fingers careful on the deadbolt. Rosa laughed at something Bishop said in the background. Engines fired up in the lot, headlights cutting through the growing dark. I pulled on my helmet and looked back once more at the drawing on the wall. 3 figures under a lopsided sun. Sometimes, all it takes is one small voice refusing to be quiet, and a few fools on motorcycles who decide that this time they're going to ride toward the storm instead of away from it. This is Gentle Bikers. Ride safe, protect the small, and never ignore a kid in the snow.